Hey guys, to help run the forums, host the website, and travel, we've introduced a universal service fee for in-depth coverage, including this video. My goal is to be unbiased and transparent. It's a privilege to serve you. This is not an endorsement. Let's get into it. Hey guys, we're kind of in this cool little neighborhood nook in Richmond, British Columbia, and I'm checking out my first Spark Bikes review. This is the Spark Mini. And it's an awesome bike. I was really impressed with the attention to detail that they've paid on this thing. These fat tire bikes are really popular because they provide a bit more comfort and stability. You can definitely ride it off-road in softer terrain if you lower the pressure on them. And you could even take it through sand and snow. And I have, and I've tested this on soft sand in Mexico years ago. I was really impressed. So it says min 5 psi, max 30. So we're probably at a higher pressure rating right now just because we're on pavement and stuff, and that's going to make it more efficient. But when you drop it down close to that 5 or at 5, if you're a lightweight rider, they spread out a little bit more, they provide some more cushion, and you can handle this thing off-road in that sand and that snow. Very, very cool. So for me, you know, you're kind of getting the best of both worlds here. You've got a bike that's fairly approachable. I would call this a mid-step. It folds, so it could fit into your apartment a little bit easier, or maybe an elevator. And you get that kind of off-road capability that you might enjoy if you're like an RVer or something like that. I love that Spark Bikes includes these like 110 millimeter wide plastic fenders, you know, and they're attached pretty well. I haven't heard them bouncing around or rubbing onto the tires too much, which is something that can happen if they get kicked out of position. You know, they don't really have a lot of adjustment. They just attach at the back. They seem pretty nice. And plastic is great because it's a little bit lighter weight and a little bit more resilient if it gets bumped. And if it gets scratched, you're not going to get rust like you might with steel fenders, and they're just quieter, they're lighter than aluminum. So for me, this is a really great choice. The rack that they chose, it's a bolt-on rack right here. Seems pretty solid, and it's maximum 25 kilograms of weight. That's roughly 55 pounds. It has this spring latch, and you could hang some panniers off the side or maybe put a little trunk bag. They even have a light built into the back, and it's tucked in under the rack. So if you fold this and it ends up on its back or side, maybe in shipping, it's not going to damage the light quite as easily. So this is integrated. Both the front and rear lights run off of that massive lithium-ion battery that I'm going to talk about later. So this is a Spiningo Lineo. Pretty nice light. It has 2 LEDs. And then the headlight, I'm going to power up the bike real quick here. Hold that power button, boots to life very quickly. You just hold that plus button for a couple seconds, and then the light icon activates. It's like a custom light. It doesn't have any branding. It's like 70 lumens, very, very bright, kind of minimal. Seems pretty tough, and it is mounted to the arch on that suspension fork, so it could be bouncing up and down versus if it was mounted to the frame. But that's fairly common, and in a way, it keeps this from getting too much more cluttered because we do have so many wires up here. You know, get the display front and center, easy to read. Got the button pad over here. We've got a throttle. Both brake levers have motor inhibitors. These are hydraulic brakes. The Spark Mini does come in 2 different flavors, I guess you could say, and this is like the nicer one. So it's $15.99 US, $18.99 Canadian, includes free shipping in Canada or the US. And I think that's pretty cool. You know, it's a decent price point for something that has such a high capacity battery, 48 volt, 17 amp hours, over 800 watt hours, plus the hydraulic disc brakes with 180 millimeter rotors. That's awesome, especially for 20-inch wheel size. So these are 20 by 4 inch. That's the fat tire. So, you know, great mechanical advantage, almost overkill. And the motor gets a mechanical advantage as well. So depending on what country you're in, if you're in Canada, it's rated up to 500 watts. In America, it can go to 750 legally. In my experience, they feel very similar, if not the same, because they both put out 80 newton meters of torque. And you've got, again, a smaller wheel size, so there's a great mechanical advantage for braking and accelerating and just zipping off the line. In some ways, it's almost zippier than I'd like sometimes. When you barely push in on that throttle, it is a variable speed throttle, so if you jam it all the way, you're going to get tons of power. But when it goes from not active to active, there's a bit of a it takes off. This thing is really, really zippy, really capable. Very nice drivetrain. So we have a steel 52-tooth chainring up front with aluminum alloy guide. So see how that It's going to protect your pant leg or dress or whatever from touching the chain, and it's going to keep that chain from bouncing off track. And then back here, we have a pretty nice drivetrain. Shimano Acera, it's like 3 steps up in the Shimano component group set. So it's like, you know, Shimano Tourney, Altus, Acera. So you're getting nicer stuff here. And then 11 to 32 tooth cassette in the back. That's a pretty good spread. Sometimes on less expensive bikes, you see like 14 to 28. So you don't have that low gear for climbing. And I like that you've got that, because again, if you're in sand or something, you might be pedaling slow or going up a hill. This bike does weigh about 63.4 pounds, and the battery pack alone weighs about 9.1 pounds. And again, this is the higher capacity battery. So if you wanted, you could save a few $100 and instead of $15.99 US, go down to $12.99 US, but you get 48 volt, 13 amp hour instead of 17 amp hour. And again, mechanical disc brakes instead of hydraulic. And hydraulic is just so nice. They're really smooth. They don't require as much hand effort. There is adjustable reach, so you can bring them in a little bit if you have smaller hands or if you're wearing gloves on a snowy day. This would be my choice personally, but you know, $300, that's cash for sure. I love that they've got this Mozo hydraulic lockout spring coil suspension. They took off the branding and stuff, so it matches the rest of the frame. This comes in a nice kind of a matte black. Everything's blacked out, looks really nice. Even the spokes down here, 13 gauge, a little bit sturdier than standard 14 gauge. But you know, it's not an air fork, does add a little bit of weight, but at least you can lock it out if you're getting bobbing. And you can preload that, so you can preload the spring if you're someone who's heavier. I'm a lightweight guy, so I kind of open it all the way up and get this nice, like, cushy ride, but it's a little bit bouncier. There isn't, like, rebound, adjust, that kind of thing that you have on nicer forks. That's fine. Standard 1.1" straight head tube, and then up here, 25.4 millimeter clamp and bore for this flat handlebar. We've got these ergonomic stitched grips that I see from a lot of companies. It is kind of a cheaper choice, but you know, they feel all right. I don't think they're locking. I was seeing this hole right here and I thought maybe they're locking, but I can't say for sure. Comes with this nice flick bell. Again, comes with the throttle and everything, and then a nicer trigger shifter down here. A lot of times you'll see the big thumb shifters up high, which work well for if you're wearing gloves and stuff, but these are definitely my preference. It's only a one-way action on the high trigger, but you get 3-shift action on the low, and you can see what gear you're in down here. But because they have this on the right-hand side, they needed to move the throttle over to the left. So for people who prefer it on the right, you might be able to kind of move it over, but it's probably going to collide with this, and this seems to be the best setup. They just went with that. Coming back to some of the other touch points, I love that they went with these aluminum alloy, really sturdy, really wide folding platform pedals. So I'm just trying to be delicate here, but might need to use both hands. There we go. There it is. Okay, see, so it folds down like that, makes the bike a little less wide for when you're transporting it, or when it's shipping to you. Remember, free shipping in the US and Canada. This isn't a bike you're going to be able to go in and get tuned up straight from a shop, but once you buy it, you could take it to a shop and they could kind of dial things in for you. And I like that it's got the tougher, you know, touch points and some of the components and stuff. We've got a slap guard here, neoprene, so it's going to keep that chain from nicking up the black paint and making silver marks. And then we've got that steel derailleur guard, so if the bike's laying on its side, it's not going to, you're not going to bend and kind of put the bike out of tune by bumping that derailleur. We do have an adjustable length kickstand, and it was in kind of like the lowest setting, so I just got some rocks here, set that up. Neither one of the wheels have quick release. We've got a 10 millimeter threaded axle up front. And then in the rear, it's like 12 millimeters. You can see the power cable extruding right here and also being protected by that derailleur guard. And then the controller down here, I think it's 26 amp. It's in that box, which is fairly typical. This is like a silverfish style battery. In order to get it off, you do have to like remove the saddle and seat post, which is a bit of a bother, but at least they have the chart on the back so you can kind of remember your number and get it about to where you had it before, or you can just leave it on the bike and charge it on the bike pretty easily. Spark Bikes does include an awesome charger, sans 3 amp, and it's got this metal kind of sturdy endpoint right there. Weighs about 1.6 pounds. Pretty easy to put in like a trunk bag or a backpack. I like that. And again, the battery does lock to the frame. I think you need to leave the keys in though when you're riding, which means they can dangle around, and rattle a little bit or even get snagged. So keep that in mind. Sometimes I just use the key without a keychain for that reason. But then you've got to take it off when you park the bike and put it in your pocket. And in that case, you might forget, like, oh yeah, I have one key floating around, I have my keychain floating around. It's easy to sort of misplace those things. But, you know, coming back to some of the decisions that they made to try to keep this cheap or just using standard equipment, in a lot of ways, there's some upgrades. So we've got this Velo Plush saddle with rubber bumpers, 27.2 millimeter seat posts. So you could upgrade that to like a suspension post if you want to have like kind of a full suspension feel, since we do have a suspension fork. I like that they went with a sealed 12 millimeter Cadence Detector down here. So this bike, again, it has a variable speed trigger throttle and then also cadence sensing pedal assist. And sometimes these things, they're mounted over there, they're bigger, they have the magnets exposed, and it's a little bit easier to get kind of bumped out of place or dirty and stuff. So this is all pretty nice stuff. A lot of the wires and stuff are external on this bike, not internally mounted or routed, but then again, they're not going to get pinched as easily as if they were running through the frame. Might be a little bit easier to do some maintenance work on this yourself if need be. And they do have some nice routing right here. Like there's a nice little tab. Sometimes those are details that companies sort of overlook, and I just feel like Spark Bikes has really gone the extra mile to make this thing. But all in all, a lot of little upgrades for a pretty good price. This company's been around since like 2017. I got to meet the founder. That's pretty cool. He's a friendly guy, and he was like, you know, we start small and then we were expanding, but now they have like 8 models. So you can see one of their higher end. This is like the RX model. It comes with a suspension seat post and really nice gel saddle. So we'll be looking at that separately, but you know, mid-drive, I thought that the Mini was a fun bike, and it reminds me of some of the other options that we see from companies because it is such a popular design, and they do have it in gloss white as well as this matte black that we see. And you know, coming back to the cable wraps and the organization of this frame and stuff, they've done a really good job having lights, everything just running right off that main battery pack. I think that's pretty good. I'm gonna have my friend hold the camera, and I'm gonna fold the bike up for you guys so you can kind of see what that looks like. So the first thing I usually do is maybe I'll take the seat down a little bit like this. Sometimes I even take the battery out just so that it's lighter weight. Again, 9.1 pounds on that. Then I'll come up to the stem here. This is a telescoping stem, so it's pretty cool. You can raise it like about 120 millimeters, and the base is like 230 or something like that. But you'll notice that if you raise it really high, these cables can kind of get stretched, especially if you turn the bike really hard. So I would recommend not going too high and just keeping an eye on those cables so they don't get too stretched. So I'm gonna lower it because we're folding it right now. And then there's this joint down here, and there's a little bit of a locking tab so that we don't accidentally come unfolded while riding. I'm gonna fold this other pedal over here. There we go, pretty easy to do when I've got both hands free. And then there's another locking point right here at the middle of the bike. And I'm just gonna carefully open that up. There we go. And I like to use my knee, so we kind of sort of unlock. There it is. So that little clamp piece right there, extra sturdy, doesn't want to come undone. Then you can kind of fold it with your knee like that. Take the kickstand out. There we go. Carefully set it down. I'm trying to be careful because this is a brand new bike, but you see that they have like a resting point right there on the ground, so it protects the chain ring and even the chain guide. So this could probably get a little bit more tight. See how there's still some room to bring it in, and I have got the folded dimensions and everything back at the website for you guys. But then the next question mark is, how do you keep it folded? You know, that the frame is going to kind of touch and potentially rub the paint or kind of bang around a little bit if this was being transported in a bumpy truck or a bumpy road, that kind of thing. So a lot of times people will get like Velcro straps or bungee cords to kind of pull this together. This does not have magnets. It does not come with like a rubber. You know, basically you kind of have to figure out your own solution. Some people like lay a towel down in between the frame when it's folded, but ultimately that's what it looks like. That's what you're getting. So I'm going to go ahead and unfold this thing and then do a little ride test. So same kind of thing, sort of lift it up, swing it, and the bike's brand new, so it's like, there we go. Takes a little bit of extra doing, there it is. And I'm gonna point this straight. Being extra careful so I don't twist those cables. Locks in. I'm gonna put the kickstand down real quick. There we go. Get this clamp on like that. Locked in, perfect. And then I think that's about it. Now it's just, you know, getting those pedals back. I love these pedals. It's really nice, especially if you're in like snowy, slippery conditions or wet. We are in Vancouver, or kind of the greater Vancouver area right now, where it does rain a lot. So having a bike that has fenders and sort of all these extra accessories and then really nice brakes is a win for me. Yeah, so that's good. Okay guys, I thought it would be kind of cool to show you the display in a darker setting here. So I'm gonna hold the power button for just a second. It boots up very quickly, and then the backlighting is active initially, and then I can reactivate it by pressing that plus button again. We've got all the standard readouts here, but I like that it's branded. This is a pretty nice display, and it does swivel, but it's not removable, and there aren't any like USB charging ports anywhere on this bike, like not on the battery, not on the display, which is too bad given how high capacity that battery is. If you hold the minus button, you get walk mode, which is pretty cool, and if you double tap the power button, you get all these different settings. So I'm gonna go through those. Let's see. We've got kilometers per hour versus miles per hour, backlight brightness, off timer, so like 5 minutes, wheel diameter 20, and then battery voltage 48, and then password, which I think if you do 1919, you can get in there and you could raise or lower the speed. And sometimes that's nice if you're a little bit feeling kind of precarious, maybe you want to extend the range, or just don't feel comfortable going all the way up to 32 kilometers per hour, which is the default. The default drive mode is pedal assist level 1, which means the throttle is hot. You know, and this is a very, you know, powerful motor. So keep your eye on that, and remember that both brake levers have motor inhibitors, so you can cut power instantly for safety. So we have speed up here, battery charge level 5 ticks, which represent 20% steps, and a battery percentage. I love that. Great job, Spark Bikes. I really like being more precise if I can. Then we have the readout for the headlight. Over here we have like the brake indicator, so there's like a little signal that's sent and it will show that the motor inhibitor is working. There's an error code, and then down here we have trip distance. But if we start pressing that power button again, it goes from speed up at the top to average speed, max speed. And then down in the bottom it says, okay, trip distance, odometer, or timer. Lots of great stuff here. I'm gonna take it down to 0, and then the throttle is not gonna work. So you do have completely like bike mode, and you might think like, why do you even need that? But it's so that you could use that headlight and know how fast you're going and stuff without worrying about the motor activating, and that could be kind of handy. So I'm just gonna walk it out here. Got a nice stretch of road. There we go. I have raised this handlebar a little bit, and then I also raised the saddle because I do have kind of a longer inseam. I want to get full leg extension. You know, as with a lot of folding products, this only comes in one frame size, but having that adjustable length stem really helps. And, you know, 350 millimeter seat post gives you a lot of options. You might hear some rattling with that key and a little bit with the fenders and stuff, but all in all, this bike has really impressed me for the price. Nice little kind of refinements or just different choices compared to some of the other folding fat bikes. It's nice to see several options now on the market. So I'm going to start pedaling just under my own power. There we go. Feeling pretty comfortable. Now I can use that throttle. Oh, actually I can't use the throttle until I'm on assist level 1. I forgot about that. So up in assist level 1. The motor doesn't really even activate at this level, which is kind of nice. I actually like that, and maybe that's how it's meant to be. I don't know, but yeah, I'm not really getting any power, but now I can use the throttle, and that's kind of nice. I don't have to worry about it getting out of control. Just super zippy. And then stable as well. I could probably even go a little bit off-road here like that, yeah. Just those big tires really give you a lot of float and comfort. Now I'll take it up to assist level 2. Very nice. I like how gentle it is. And there are 9 assist levels on this bike. So in a way, it's kind of like a lot of clicking. So you're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Finally, you're at 9 and it doesn't go around. So you have to click down, 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 down a bunch. But then again, each step is a little bit smoother. It's not like all or none. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of glare here. It's nice that we can angle this if we need to. Well, let's try this just on 9 from 0. Yeah, that's it. This is like one of the most responsive cadence sensors that I've felt in a while. I feel like it's the same hardware, but maybe just that Spark Bikes has like dialed it in or something, because it stops right away. I don't feel like it gets out of control. And then having those motor inhibitors and stuff, that's a big deal. I'm gonna do this again. There we go. Going off-road, whoa boy. This thing really goes. It's a lot of fun. And as a guy, you know, I'm only weighing like 135 pounds, so it's nice to feel like there would be plenty of power for some of the heavier folks. And then you get that torque advantage because of the smaller wheel size. Okay guys, from here you can see that 52 tooth chainring with a nice alloy guide and those nice pedals, slap guard, and just the cassette in the rear. I'm gonna switch through the gears, do different levels of assist, and just have some fun riding. You can see how the chain responds and how quickly that motor starts and stops, and just get another viewpoint. I'm gonna start off in the highest level of assist, level 9. Very nice, smooth braking action. Feels very comfortable with these tires. Even on the grass here, it's a little bit bumpy. Got that suspension fork completely open, so I'm gonna try to do a little ride with, maybe you can see that activating. Try to get a little bit higher, there we go. Not bad. Probably noticed a little bit of dive when I stopped there. I like having a twist or a trigger throttle when I'm on a fat bike sometimes, because it helps you to get started and get some momentum if you are in soft sand, or maybe you're trying to get through some snow or something like that. And it's just working really well. Good stuff. So I think that's about it. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. Sometimes you might be riding with like long sleeves or jacket, and I've noticed that the edges of these buttons can kind of get pulled up, like you can snag that, and it can actually rip these buttons forward and bend the plastic. So be careful with this. It's a decent button pad, but it's a little bit more vulnerable than some of the other ones I've seen. This bike is highly water resistant. It's designed to be really durable, and they do have that year-long comprehensive warranty. So considering the company's been around since 2017, I hadn't really heard of them until recently. I feel like their marketing is really good. Their customer support seems on point. It's not like they're trying to go out of control here, you know, with just going super cheap components or not providing a level of support. They're growing organically, and I respect that. So for the full written review on the Spark Mini, I'll see you guys back at ElectricBikeReview.com, where I've got all the other specs and stuff. Feel free to chime in with your questions, comments, and maybe your experiences if you've worked with, you know, Spark bikes in the past and you like what they did, or maybe you had an issue or something like that. I always welcome that and try to be as objective as possible. And yeah, have fun, ride safe out there. Love you guys. We'll see you next time.